26 drivers about to do battle for 150 green flag laps. This is the Super Late Model Series, round number 5 in 2023. Before we begin tonight, we do have one thing that we need to take care of. 1 year ago from tomorrow, Speedway 660 lost one of its youngest race fans. Skyler Foster unfortunately passed away at a very, very young age. We miss Skyler every time we come here to the racetrack. So we ask everybody, if you can now, to please rise for a moment of silence for Skyler Foster here at Speedway 660. Thank you, folks. It's time to introduce you to the starting lineup for this tonight's running of the ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire. Starting shotgun on the grid, it's the Oyster Bed SO Reliable Motors Dodge from Oyster Bed, Prince Edward Island. Please welcome Kenny Snow. Another Kenny will start alongside him. It's the Acura Moncton Mac Tools, Mountain HVAC, and R. Stevens Mechanical Acura. Car number 85, Kenny McKenzie Jr. Fog City Auto Spa, KW Electric, and Big Bubbles Auto Wash on car number 94 from the Port City of St. John. Please welcome Ryan Rains. Livingston Steel on car number 22, his first time to the Geary Woods. Please welcome from West Cove Head, Prince Edward Island, Brody Lewis. CarQuest, Canadian Tire, Pubs Drive-Thru Model Exchange on the driver from Barnesville. Number 27 is Curtis Collins. Kerr Smart Energy, Platinum Touch Electric, the Lawn Doctor, 101 Electrical on car number 88 from Fredericton. It's Big Kevin Moore. A former competitor in Ontario with the Oscar Hot Rods and the Atlantic Modified Tour out east. Driving for Dwayne McKay here tonight, his debut. Please welcome Ed Bowlby. Burger King and Obelinas Auto Body on a 3-time winner this season in the Geary Woods. From Boundary Creek, please welcome Dave Obelinas. Bayview Truck Shoreland Transport GD Fabrication on car number 43. He has had a hot run this season from St. Martin's. Please welcome Hudson Weston. Robert Curtis of Keller Williams, Denmark Auto in Hope City on the Big Black Dodge. His father, a 4-time champion right here in the Geary Woods. From New Denmark, please welcome Ian Rasmussen. 2 times a champion in the Geary Woods with the Easy Clean Pressure System Chevrolet. Coming to us from beautiful Hampton, please welcome Chris Duncan. Halpin Excavating, GD Fabrication, A.J. Millett & Sons on the 03, high up in the points here tonight and looking for the win. Please welcome Steve Halpin. Your points leader drives for Clam Diggers Beach House, Powered Up Electrical and Cornwall Self-Storage on car number 16. From Cornwall, it's Dylan Gosby. The Power Store, the Snell Group, and Pubs Drive-Thru Model Exchange on car number 10. From Baxter's Corner, please welcome Devin Snell. Shaw's Towing, Kears Ventilation, McKinnon Brothers Service Center on the car from Charlottetown. Please welcome car number 18, it's Darren McKinnon. JS Plumbing and Heating, King Competition, and Chris Fournier Remax on the Charlottetown driver. Please welcome the 01 of Troy Burke. all the way from Fort McMurray, Alberta, ladies and gentlemen. He drives for King Competition. Robbie's towing an Easy Term Auto. Car number 42 is Kyle Reed. AJW Mechanical, Kelson Industrial and Pubs drive-through bottle exchange on car number 54. 2 podium finishes this year. Could he win for the first time tonight? Please welcome Clark Moore. Your winner of the inaugural event, back on opening weekend, drives for Waterfront Pub and Eatery, McLaughlin's Overhead Doors, and Dana's Collision. From Harvey, it's Big Orange, Ryan Messer. Darcy Tucker Holdings Limited on the Chevrolet. He knows this track very, very well. Driver number 52 looks for a good run tonight. It's Dustin Tucker. Podium finish on opening weekend for the Doherty and Fullerton Maple Syrup Pubs drive-through exchange. Lonnie Somerville Racing Toyota. Please welcome from Barnesville, Lonnie Somerville. White Lightning Auto Center and Empire Luxury Limousines on car number 2, a three-time 250 champion here in the Geary Woods. From Littleton, it's Ashton Tucker. Outside of row number 2, driving for Rice and Construction, Beaton Racing, Dan McGrath, an Action Car and Truck. The driver comes to us from Sherwood. It's Robbie McEwen. 7 times a track champion right here at Speedway 660. Driving for AE Horn & Sons Beaver Brokerage and Top Shelf Cabinetry. Please welcome from Charlotte County, St. Stephen, it's Greg Fay. A winner at Petty International Raceway. Driving for Robbie's Sewing, King Competition, Plant Seafood. On car number 83 from Jolly Cure, it's Corey Hall. Number 14, Florence Engineering, MCW Maricore Tomac. Online leak repairs, number 14 from Moncton, Andrew Rogers. Andrew, we'll talk to you here for just a moment. Starting on the pole, 26 cars here tonight. How does this feel to be up here?
Big thanks to ReCar and Wonder Auto and Tire for putting this thing on. Can't thank Wayne and Brent enough for this series and all they've put into stock car racing around this area. It means a lot for us to be here, and this is just a great field to be a part of.
Are you ready to go win for the first time in the Super Late Model Series?
We're ready to go out here and hopefully keep all the vendors on it and see how we come home.
That's Andrew Rogers, driver number 14, into the race car. I know we've got one driver on the grid here tonight that is not in their race car. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big shout out to John Rankin, driver number 9. Well, let's give a big shout out to him. They brought the car out. Unfortunately, some bad luck will keep John Rankin from making the start of this one. But he is going to be crew member for this 150 lap Super Late Model Series event. Folks, when you came into the racetrack here tonight, you might have filled out a ballot for a draw to win something from ReCar. I didn't tell you what it was. I told you you would want it. I wanted to keep it a little bit of a secret. Thanks to the folks at ReCar, it is a $500 gas card. So if you've got your tickets here tonight. We're going to draw, and somebody is going to be very, very happy at the end of this one. Tom's going to reach in and draw a name. And we're going to make somebody's night here. Looks like Stuart Cochran. Stuart Cochran, there we go. He's got some friends out there. You have won a $500 gas card. If you want to come to the flag stand right now, we will make your night. Crew members, when your driver is strapped in, we want one hand high up in the air. That will be the signal to the fans, to the staff here at the racetrack, the series, and to myself that you are ready to go racing. Andrew Rogers, Greg Fay, they're ready to go. Kyle Reed. Two drivers from Charlottetown in front of me. They're ready to go. Dylan Gosby is good towards the back of the field. some last-minute words of encouragement. Cheer on your favorite driver here tonight. Cheer them on loud. This will be one of the best shows we see all season long. Alrighty, on the count of 3, 3, 2, 1. Driver, start your engines!
Well, race fans, 26 of the fastest late models in the province set to do battle here for 150 laps of the ReCar 150. 12, 15, 20, 26 cars, one of the largest starting fields this season. Race number 5 of the 6-race series is alive and well for the Super Late Model Series in its first season. How about the 42 car all the way from Sydney, Nova Scotia? Robbie's towing on that car. These guys actually operate a towing business out west. They fly back and forth to get to drive the race cars. Had a chat with him today. Said if he was here getting ready for the 250 upcoming. Talked about how he liked the 6-race series, that maybe they could run it full time with their busy schedule that they have out west in the towing business. So cars from all over. It'll be an exciting race, so sit back, get ready. You won't want to miss any of this. 150 green flag laps. Cautions do not count. We've had green-white finishes in some places 3-4 times to decide the winner. You will be on the edge of your seat for this one.
Brad, 26 drivers, as you just mentioned. What a field we have here tonight. And this is just a 150-lap super late model race, but this is a big deal. Imagine the tune-up that's happening here tonight, what we could have in a couple weeks' time.
Jesse, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see 35 to 40 cars here in 2 weeks' time for the 250. You're right, there's some guys tuning up. But these are the regulars on the tour. What about the outsiders that come in for the big money?
Yeah, we got a lot of drivers here, a lot of outsider drivers, a lot of drivers making their first Super Late Model Series start. Some of them, their first starts here at Speedway 660. It's going to be exciting. 150 green flag laps on tap next.
You got Corey Hall up on the outside pole. He's been a big winner here. How about Ashton Tucker a couple rows back, been a big winner. The 23, Lonnie Somerville, has been a big winner. A whole bunch of 250 winners in this field.
Absolutely. Look at Dave Oblinas. He's won 3 times this season weekly, starting deep in this field, and we mean deep. Starting in the final 4 rows of this race, he's going to have a long way to go if he wants to add a Super Late Model Series win to his pedigree.
Oblinas, no stranger to this track. He'll weave his way through. Patience will be a virtue here in the early going. You cannot win this in the first half of the race. You got to be around and save your car for the last 10 laps and make that run to the finish.
Absolutely. You know, these laps are quick here, but as we've seen in years past, you really got to keep your equipment underneath of you and be in a good position.
You do, and the good luck gods got to be with you. You can have the fastest race car, but mechanical breakdowns. The 23, 2 motors this year on the series. Put them on the sideline.
This time by race fans out of turn number 4. We're going to wave these drivers off. This is your salute. Send off the cars and stars of the Super Late Model Series. This is round number 5, the ReCar 150, presented by Wonder Auto and Tire.
So the car's sweeping back and forth, warming up the tires, waving off to the fans. A nice crowd here tonight just for this big race also.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers. I know it's kind of chilly out there. A lot of people are braving the elements. They're getting bundled up. They're getting close and tidied up, and they're ready to go, just like our drivers.
They'll forget about the cold once these cars start rubbing and get go racing here. They'll be on the edge of their seat, and they'll warm up in a hurry.
1 to go signal given to the field. Andrew Rogers, his first time on the pole of the Super Late Model Series event. Corey Hall to his outside. Tom Gilmore in the Riverview Ford Lincoln Pace truck pulls in. 26 of Canada's best super late model drivers through 3 and 4. The ReCar 150 is underway.
So they're off. So Corey Hall trying to get a big run on the backstretch. He can't. Rogers will go bumper to bumper with them as they go side by side. Rogers will lead lap 1 here of the ReCar 150.
Corey Hall looks to roll the outside on Andrew Rogers. The Plant Seafood, Robbie's Towing, Toyota wants to lead lap number 2, can't do it at the line.
So Rogers will lead lap number 2, but Hall is working hard up on the outside. Meanwhile, back in the field a little bit, the 20 of Fay is holding his own. Ashton Tucker looking for some place to go as they're double foul the top 10 cars. Corey Hall getting an advantage.
Robbie McEwen around the outside of Greg Fay, the Sherwood driver, beat and thrashed on that race car. Look out, Clark Moore off the pace. Car number 54 off to the pit area. Tough break for the St. John driver, his second year with this race car.
Still the battle up front. It's side by side. Corey Hall will
Oh,
edge
look
him.
out. We got trouble in turns 3 and 4. Ian Rasmussen goes around. Steve Halpin, Hudson Weston. Dave Oblina spins. The 97 of Chris Duncan able to keep going. Don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of damage. Kevin Moore involved as well, car number 88. I think Halpin might have got on the binders just enough. And Rasmussen finds himself sideways 3 laps in to the ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire.
Everybody's moving, getting away from it. Doesn't look like any serious damage. The 48 Oblinas, a little scuff on the side. Nothing doing there to harm him. So a lucky break early in lap 3, a caution between turn 3 and 4. But it looks like everybody will recover from it. Somebody making a pit stop on the back stretch. Didn't quite get the car number that pitted there. So Corey Hall had got by Rogers. Now whether they go back a lap to see who leads, but I think the lap was complete. So we'll see what scoring has here from the tower. But it's been a side-by-side battle up front between Corey Hall and Rogers, holding his own here. His first pole in the series. A lot of good cars running double file back through the field, so not a lot of room just for anybody moving around. The cars have been pretty tight in the early going.
So Corey Hall is up front. Andrew Rogers finds himself second. 3 laps into this event. Robbie McEwen sits third. He got around Greg Fay in car number 20. Lonnie Somerville in position number 5. Let's talk a little bit about Lonnie Somerville. This season, he ended up 3rd. He's been 5th. And then he's had a shower of motor parts on the racetrack a couple of times.
Indeed, he has, Jesse. Twice now they've lost the motor in that 23 car. And the sad part of the story, both times brand new engines. We did see, had some trouble in Prince Edward Island. Some quick work by the guys in the pit, and they did get that car back together, but that was also engine trouble when a dowel pin broke. Lucky enough to catch it in practice, put it back together. Saw him grenade a motor at Petty, right out through the bottom, broken crank, and then we go back the island and he has another broken crank, something unheard of, 2 brand new engines. So they had to go out this week and they bought an Ford Oval engine from Noggle in Halifax used because they can't get another new one. It's not ready yet. So they're really scratching their heads. You don't hear cranks going out of new engines very often, and there's nothing you can do with equipment like that when it breaks. You're just hopeless.
No, and you know what? Sometimes that's just the card you're dealt. Sometimes you can run a whole season on an engine. Sometimes, you get a race, a half a race, a quarter of a race on it. Hard to say what'll happen.
Well, that's why we've gone to the crate motors, is for dependability, to try to save money. We've gone to that probably back about 8 or 9 years ago, and that was the idea of going to it. Just that they were dependable and you could run them 2 or 3 seasons. But in the 23 camp, they haven't had good luck with it. The 2-car, Ashton Tucker's, run good, or he's broke. Transmission when that car was the fastest car in Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, same with the 83 of Corey Hall. That race, they finished the race over an oyster bed. They had rear end problems for that entire race. So, these cars, as quick as they are, they can have something ailing them underneath the surface, and you really don't even know.
And some of the parts on these cars are expensive. I talked to Brad Siliker today, and transmission for that 2-car, used $8,500.
85, wow.
And I said, how much was a new one? $10,000. Nobody had it. You spend $85, or you'd go get a new one for $10. They were lucky enough to find one in Ontario used, and it cost them $8,500.
Jeez. Well, you know what? Ashton is going to put that behind him. He sits 6th at the moment. He's going to put that behind him, and he will roll on forward as he's done his entire career, especially with Brad Siliker in this 2 camp.
Well, the sport, 1 minute you're on top and the next minute you're on the bottom. Last week they ran at the 250 in Halifax, came in second. He led 148 laps, took a paycheck home of $17,000.
Yeah.
But he had to spend $85 of it for training.
Exactly. We're going to go through the order a little bit further. Of course, Ashton Tucker, as we just mentioned, 6th at the moment. Ryan Messer is 7th. He was the winner back on opening weekend. Kyle Reed with the 42 car. He sits 8th. I don't know if you noticed, Dustin Tucker, 9th now. Looked like maybe they weren't able to get up through the gears very quickly on that start. Really kind of bunched things up on that first lap, but he sits 9th at the moment. Devin Snell is 10th in that 10 car. Troy Burke in behind him in 11th. Dylan Gosby is 12th. Darren McKinnon is 13th. And then a couple of cars further back that were in the incident. We'll get some updated timing and scoring here, but that's about the first half of the field that we've got at the moment.
Yeah, and we got a lot of fast cars. Jesse back through the middle. I mean, we got Gosby that just won in the Island, and he had a hot rod. But getting around the Geary track is a trick in its own, and we saw over the years the guys that run here all the time get set up for it. But we've seen the shoes come in from outside and never get a handle on it.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the best that have ever driven at this place, I think about, Sterling Marlin or Terry Lamonti, that just weren't able to get the handle on this track. Johnny Benson was good a couple of times. Austin Terrio had a good finish here, but some of them just couldn't quite get the hang of it.
Sometimes we underestimate what we have here in our own backyard. We bring these shoes in from NASCAR. Very seldom do they win. Our locals get the job done.
Oh, yeah. And that really shows the pedigree of the drivers we've got here in Atlantic Canada, and especially all across Canada with some of the stars that we've got here tonight. So the drivers have chosen on the backstretch. There is a choose rule in play. So Andrew Rogers has gone to the inside. The 83 of Corey Hall back to the outside. Greg Fay is on the inside and behind them. Robbie McEwen in the 40. He's on the outside. Ashton Tucker and Lonnie Somerville make up row number 3.
And don't count out the 1 car. Big Orange knows his way around this racetrack.
Yeah, a winner 3 times this season between this series, the Tour, and a weekly show. He'll know how to get it done. We'll find out as they come to the restart box. Green flag back in the air.
Once again, Corey Hall gets a big jump on the restart, but Rogers fights back on the outside. Meanwhile, Robbie McEwen trying to follow in his shoes, right up there looking to take that 3rd spot.
Side-by-side battle, Moncton versus Jollicoeur up front, and the Sherwood driver sits in third at the moment. Here comes Lonnie Somerville in hot pursuit in the outside row. He'll bring Ryan Messer with him.
Meanwhile, Corey Hall fights back on the outside. It looks like he's going to get it done on the backstretch. McEwen wants to follow him through, can't get it. Rogers shorts the door and fights back on the bottom. Caution on the Speedway.
Darren McKinnon has gone around. Chris Duncan once again comes to a stop. Ed Bowlby went for a wild ride through the dirt. And everybody able to drive away from that one. We're seeing some trouble down in 3 and 4. Not quite sure what's happening there. Maybe a lack of patience early on in this race. Maybe a visibility issue. It is pretty dark here at the racetrack. As I was on the front stretch, I took notice of that. I imagine it's even more dark inside those race cars.
Yeah, you got to, if you run here every week, you kind of get adjusted to it. But for the guys that aren't here every week, they might be having some trouble. But on restarts, it's always you're bumper to bumper. And if somebody just hiccups just a little bit in front of you, then you're into them and somebody's around. So usually the first 2 laps of the restarts are always the worst when everybody's bunched up. And they're not a lot of give and take here early, which surprises me. It's a long race, and you need to be patient and be around for the last part of this, or the last 50 laps or so. So a couple early cautions, but no damage done here to the race cars, so they'll get it sorted out and reline them back up. But Corey Hall wanting to take the lead early, he has, but Rogers has him back down a whole lot. He's right there. The 40 car from Prince Edward Island, McEwen wanting to get by with Hall and take that second spot. And that's a low-budget team also. The 40 car, McEwen does their own work. So I love to see these small teams be competitive here against the big teams. And it's just nice when you know that it's a small team and they're up there running with the big teams.
Yeah, Robbie McEwen knows how to get around this racetrack. He finished second in the 251 season ago, but this week leading up to this event and even at the racetrack here this weekend, every time I turned around, they had parts out of that race car. They were trying stuff. They were just trying to get that extra advantage. I don't know if the crew was really enjoying all the work they were having to put in, as the car was pretty good in practice, but Robbie is never satisfied, and he always wants a little bit more.
You always want more, and I had a chance to chat with him. I mean, he built his own jig for the front end of this race car. I mean, people go to race professional shops to get a jig built for the race car, and Robbie did it all himself at home, and that's pretty impressive. So you're right, he always wants more, and as a race car driver, you always want an extra edge, because if you sit still, somebody's going to get away to get around you.
Yeah, and I guess as a former driver yourself, I'll ask you this. At one point, do you keep chasing that extra 10th? And at what point do you realize maybe that's just not there? Maybe this is what we've got here tonight.
You're never done chasing it, but then when you go 2/10 the wrong way,
yeah, then you wish you had it back.
You're
yeah.
scurrying back to change this. And
yeah.
I'll tell you, you go from the sportsman cars look identical to these, but you do not have the adjustment on the sportsman cars that you have in a Pro Stock car. So you can adjust yourself out of competition in a hurry because there's so many different ways you can go at it and understand it. And these cars have got more sophisticated every year.
Yeah, and I talked to Troy Burke earlier in the day, the driver of the JS Plumbing 01. He's looks like he might have made a pit stop. He's shotgun on the field at the moment. I talked to him earlier, and he said, we're just trying to get seat time at this racetrack. We're just trying to figure out the Geary Woods. This is only the second time we've been here. If we can be happy with a top 10 and get out of here cleanly, we'll be all right. But that was in the daytime. Now it's in the real chilly nighttime. Things have gone different. You hope that you've made the right adjustments.
Well, you're always guessing when you test in the afternoon. You try to be a little bit on the loose side, so when the cold weather comes in, it tightens the race car up. But it's a guess. How far do you go? And on a 150, if you went too far, you can pit early and maybe get it back. But you almost got to go with what you're dealt. You don't want to give up track position with all these fast cars in the field. It's hard to get back up through.
So we're under caution for the second time, 4 laps in to the ReCar 150, presented by Wonder Auto and Tire. We'll be back with round number 6 on September 30th, I believe, at Petty International Raceway. That'll be our championship round on the High Banks Petty Raceway. We saw a pretty good show there last time out. Maybe it was a little bit rough. Maybe some guys took home some wrecked race cars, but look at the field we've got tonight. I know they're going to want to come back for one last crack at it.
Well, it's very impressive that 5 out of 6 races and you get this big car count. So that's a statement to the tour that people are happy and they're enjoying the tour. I mean, if you went into race 5 and you're out of contention for the points and stayed home, you'd be here with 15 cars. That's not the case here.
Off turn number 4 one more time. Green flag back in the air. Corey Hall's going to rock it down into turn 1 and off turn 2. Andrew Rogers will pull even with him in turn number 3. Sparks out from underneath the 14 car, but they will carry on out front. Corey Hall side by side. He'll lead lap number 5.
Andrew Rogers is not going to make it easy for Corey Hall as he fights back on the bottom. He's got a good hot rod under him. Corey Hall will lead that lap. Greg Fahey and McEwen are running side by side back in the 3rd position. Lonnie Somerville trying to decide inside, outside where he wants to go to get in the fast line. But the whole front of this field is bunched up pretty good.
Now these drivers, if they can get the positions they want, if they can get to the bottom or get to the top, they will have to exercise patience the best they can. Somerville now side by side with Greg Fay. The Doherty and Fullerton Maple Syrup number 23 with Preston Peltier on the crew this weekend is looking strong in that outside groove. He was 3rd on opening weekend.
Meanwhile, Lonnie Somerville puts it up on the outside looking to gain some positions. He's up to 4th on the back bumper, McEwen. But what is impressive up front is that Corey Hall cannot get away from Matt Rogers' car as he keeps fighting back on the bottom. Corey Hall side by side down the backstretch with Andrew Rogers. They'll dive into turn 3 and 4. Hall will lead this lap back. Rogers will settle into the 2nd spot, but no, he fights back on the bottom. Corey Hall pulls him on the backstretch. Andrews will fight back. Now Corey Hall's going to shut the door on the bottom and take that lane away to lead that lap.
A little bit further back, Chris Duncan is on the move towards the front of the field. Involved in 2 cautions here tonight, but he is on the move, and he's bringing Dave Oblinus with him. How about our points leader, Dylan Gosby? Gosby is mired mid-pack, but he could be a contender once this thing is all over.
Meanwhile, on the bottom, it's Lonnie Somerville fighting under McEwen to take that 3rd spot. He was outside, dipped down under him. McEwen slipped up the racetrack. He was Johnny on the spot to take that spot, but they're side by side a good battle. Fahey will run in the 5th spot, but they're double foul back behind him as there's no place for Ashton Tucker. Big Orange running side by side. All double foul, 6 through 12.
Kyle Reed on the move in the outside. In the Robbie's towing, number 42. Works around Devin Snell. Those 2 drivers have been on the podium in the Pro Stock 250 before. Up front, Corey Hall trying to dispatch of Andrew Rogers. Lonnie Somerville up to 3rd. And Robbie McEwen hot on his trail in the 4th position.
So Corey Hall cannot shake Rogers. Andrew Rogers stays right with him. We thought maybe Corey Hall could drive away, but Rogers says no. He's hanging tight on the bottom. Somerville gets the 3rd spot. McEwen 4th. Fahey 5th. Back through the field. Now it's Kyle Reed trying to take that 6th spot to get out of that double foul battle. Around goes Snell, and the caution will fly.
Caution flag comes out. Devin Snell will slide to a stop just towards turn number 1. He'll grab a gear and keep going. And Brad, I was checking time and scoring on that one. Not sure if there was any contact with the 10 car and another driver.
10 and the Reed were side by side, but it just looked like the 10 car, it broke out from under him. It doesn't look like there was any contact. He was a little loose getting off, and Kyle Reed was up on the outside, but from up here, it looked like the 10 car just lost it on his own. But I'm sure they'll make the call from upstairs. They're up higher on the tower than us with their watchful eyes, two of them, and they'll get it figured out. That's just my opinion on it. And
yeah, so race control going to have a little bit of work now to line these drivers back up. 18 laps in to a 150-lap main event. And I was checking timing and scoring while all that was happening. Corey Hall and Lonnie Somerville seem to be the two fastest cars on track.
they do, but I'm still really impressed with Andrew Rogers hanging in there. He seems to be on the bottom. Corey Hall seems to want to give him the bottom, but he's having a hard time to shake him. So with this restart and putting Lonnie in there, it's going to be interesting to see the mix. But Somerville seems to have a good hot rod under him.
Absolutely. Have you met a member of the Rogers family who wasn't good behind the wheel of a race car?
No, and it was always kind of interesting. There were two brothers here all the time, and I remember back watching the sportsman races, the long sportsman races. It was nothing to see them two battling it out for the win. Absolutely.
Their father, Steve, as well, longtime sportsman competitor. Their grandfather, Bob, was a longtime competitor as well through the Moncton, Riverglade, Petitcodiac area.
There used to be two of them. I don't. Is the other fellow still racing, Jesse, or it's two brothers there, and I don't see the other fellow around.
Matt ran. He ended up on the podium in the last sportsman race we had, but I asked him if he was going to come back for Speed Weekend. He told me on the front stretch in that interview, he said, we're focusing on the super late model and pro stock efforts for the rest of the year. It doesn't sound like he's done altogether. I can't see that being the case. I think maybe they're just going to park it for the rest of the year and focus on Andrew's efforts.
Okay, so it takes a lot of time with these pro stocks, and I mean that's a small team also, right? That's not a not a big funded team. Those guys would do all their work in house.
Those cars live in the shop outside of St. John and Smithtown. Andrew lives in Moncton. Matt is in. I know at one point he was in university up here in Fredericton. So everybody has to do a little bit of traveling to get those cars on the track. As we're seeing, it's paying off here tonight.
And maybe some of the race fans don't understand, but it's nothing to spend 4 nights, 5 nights working on these cars with a full crew to get them ready for one night of racing, and it takes time.
And that's the car being together. If somebody walked by and said, yeah, that car's ready to go, usually not even close to being ready to go. They've got stuff tore out of it, and they're putting stuff in, pulling motors and transmissions and topping fluids, you know.
And that's just if you had a good week.
Yeah, if you got to reclip the car and put body panels on, don't even worry about next week.
I know, like I was 5 hours away from here, and that was one of the reasons we went with the Tucker Racing chassis with Sean Tucker having a race shop here. I can't travel from Campbellton down to the U.S. to get it fixed, whatever.
Oh, goodness,
so
and no one would expect you to.
No, so I went with Tucker Racing, and I had great service from them, and it was just a no-brainer for me to go somebody close to this racetrack while we were running here.
Yeah. So the 42 of Kyle Reed is going to get his spot back. The 10 instituting the tap rule, as we saw Doug Matchett in the modified feature. Come under the flag stand, tap the roof. Hey, that was my fault. Give that other driver his spot back. I'll go to the rear. I'll, suffer the consequences a little bit.
Well, I really like that idea and the honesty of the driver to do that. That's what I saw. So kudos to him, to be honest, and not to say, hey, I lost this. He didn't help me. For so many years, it was no-fault racing, and 2 years went to the back. I lived it. And lots of times you had nothing to do with it, but you were the culprit, and you went with the other guy.
Yeah, unfortunately, you maybe drove a little bit ticked off at that point.
Well, I did, and I remember running a tour race here, and I got sent to the back. There was a spin up in turn 1 and 2, Rolly McDonald and another car, and I'm running back here in 6, and I get sent to the back, and I come up after the race control. I said, well, show me. And the guy looks at race control, well, it looked like your car. And I said, well, you can't make decisions like that, buddy. It looked like my car. I wasn't there.
You had pretty recognizable race cars, so not hard to tell.
So you're right, I was a little disturbed after.
A little peeved, yeah. All right, so drivers have doubled up once again. Corey Hall continues to take the outside with the restarts. Andrew Rogers on the inside. Robbie McEwen will line up third. Lonnie Somerville fourth. Kyle Reed and Greg Fay in row at number 3. Ashton Tucker and Ryan Messer in row number 4. Dustin Tucker and Chris Duncan up into the top 10 now. He's been involved in a couple of incidents. Don't count out the Easy Clean Pressure System, number 97, a two-time track champion. Green flag back in the air.
So Corey Hall gets a big jump on the restart, but Rogers fights back. No wonder why Somerville took the outside. He figures that Corey Hall's going to go, and he wants to go with him. But Rogers is holding tough, and he will lead that lap back to the line.
Lonnie Somerville would love to return to victory lane, especially here in the Geary Woods, a place he knows oh so well. He's got two of the toughest in front of him to try and contend with. But right now, he is content with what he's got. Corey Hall up front will roll the outside and retake position number 1.
Robbie McCune sits in fourth. He's watching Somerville inside, outside. He wants to go. He's looking, trying some way to get around that 14 car. Rogers a little loose off of 2. Loses a little ground. A lot of sparks coming out of that 14 car. Got to wonder if the sway bar chain isn't down on the bottom of it. And that could be could cost them some handling here in the later going.
Greg Fay starting to go backwards a little bit in the A.E. Horn Chevrolet. Car number 20 will now have Chris Duncan to his outside. Falling deeper into the back of the top 10. And Greg Fay, maybe they've missed an adjustment on that race car, and he will be hoping and praying for a yellow.
Don't look now, but Ashton Tucker and the Big Orange are on the move. Ashton Tucker sucks it up on the outside of Kyle Reed. He wants to take that position away. Reed fights back hard on the bottom, doesn't want to give it up. Meanwhile, Big Orange is sitting there watching what happens so he can decide which way he wants to go, inside or outside. Looks like Ashton Tucker will make the pass on Kyle Reed.
Lonnie Somerville and Robbie McEwen. Fans of the Mike Stevens Memorial have seen these two drivers get together. No strangers to one another. Somerville leaves the inside open. Robbie McEwen to his inside. Corey Hall is checked out, and Andrew Rogers solidly in second. This is one of the battles on the racetrack.
Ashton Tucker sitting right behind McEwen and Somerville, wondering what's what, which way is he going to go. Somerville gets the edge on the backstretch. McEwen will settle in behind him. Ashton Tucker looking to go under Robbie McEwen. He gets the nose there, can't get it done this lap. McEwen shuts the door. Tucker fights back on the bottom. Reed sends behind him. Big Orange double foul in behind Tucker.
Hamke, Fury, and Clattenburg all in a blanket. Right now we got a Fury and a Clattenburg car in behind him, and then Chris Duncan in the 97 has settled into position with the 97 car. In behind him, Dave Oblinus is on the move. Oblinus started deep in this field, and he is now inside the top 10 in car number 48.
Ashton Tucker gets underneath Somerville. He is on the prowl. Ashton Tucker will settle into the third place, and he sets sights on that Brad Siliker Motorsports. He wants to get up front and battle with Corey Hall, where that car comes out of the same shop that Corey Hall works in. Same chassis. They are not strangers to each other.
Brody Lewis in danger of going down a lap in the Livingston Steel number 22. Ryan Rains there as well. The Fox City Auto Spa Ford in danger of being lapped sooner rather than later.
Corey Hall will begin to lap some of the back markers. Rogers closes up. Tucker sits in third. Lonnie Somerville fourth. Robbie McEwen fifth. They gathered up on the backstretch. There was almost a spin, but a nice save. As they get into lap traffic, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but Tucker has really closed the gap. He's within a car length of Rogers for that second position.
Andrew Rogers will defend for all it's worth. The Moncton driver sitting second at the moment, having a career run with the Super Late Model Series. He has got one of the best young prospects in Atlantic Canada in his rearview mirror, Ashton Tucker, a winner 4 times of a 250 in the Maritimes between Halifax and Fredericton.
Somerville, McCune, Kyle Reed, Big Orange, single foul. Whoa, big crash! And the 97 is into the pit. And a flying crash off of the bank. Hopefully he's okay, but he went for a wild ride down the pit road.
Red flag comes out immediately. Chris Duncan has rolled in a spectacular crash off the backstretch. And safety crews will head there immediately to check on the 97 crew, but we will wait for word from the safety crews.
So don't know what happened just on the backstretch, but he got into the bank and it just launched it down into pit road. So it looked like something broke. He got off the racetrack on the backstretch, and the car just launched off the air into the pit entrance.
Unbelievable. Darren Sherwood had a famously similar crash a number of years ago. Matt Matheson has had a wild ride with that as well. You know, for fans maybe that aren't here too often, or maybe are tuned in a little bit later next week checking out the video on demand, this racetrack does not have walls. It's got a fence to keep you in, but the embankments can send you for a ride.
They can, but embankments are a lot safer than getting into a cement wall at 100 miles an hour head on. And that's a similar crash, you're right, that Darren Sherwood had. And I remember I was racing that night, and I had the second car, and Darren actually bought my second car because it twisted that car up so bad. But you got to remember, we got the Hans devices now, roll cage seats. We're pretty safe in these race cars, so hopefully everything's okay over there. But these race cars are extremely safe. But it's a wild ride, and it's been caught on video pretty much. So.
Race fans, he's out of the race car. Chris Duncan has climbed from the Easy Clean Pressure System Chevrolet. Oh my goodness, we've got a view here with a camera down in the pits. That car is demolished, folks. But race cars can be replaced. Drivers cannot, and Chris Duncan has climbed out of the car, and we are so thankful for that with our safety crew.
He's out of the car standing.
So Chris Duncan is out of the car standing on his own, so it's nice that he survived that wild ride. It just goes to show the safety in these race cars. So once again, Chris Duncan is standing on his own okay after that terrific crash.
Absolutely. So under caution, 37 laps into the ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire. Well, Brad, now that we know that Chris Duncan is okay, let's talk about some of the running we saw on that green flag run. I want to shout out a couple of drivers. Dave Oblinus is on the move in the 48 car, started deep in the field. Kevin Moore is on the move, starting deep in the field as well. Don't count out the 88 car. He had a great run going at the Pro Stock Tour race earlier in the year before a cut tire kind of ended his race. And Greg Fay started up front. He has fallen back quite a bit. This might be the caution that they come in and really adjust on that race car.
Yeah, they haven't really, Greg hasn't really adjusted. They've fought that car all year. We're used to seeing Fahey run up front. It's a different chassis than what they ran before, so sometimes you got to get the bugs out of them. But, you know, Chris Duncan had moved up through the field. He looked like he had a good car, and I just got to wonder if something just didn't break on him.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like.
Something swung wildly and sent him for a ride. Yeah, I mean, we've had wild rides over the years. I hate to really bring it up, but you blew a motor one night, and Derek Christie kind of felt the wrath of that in the 250.
Yeah, I did. We lost it here, and I think we were coming off a 3 when it blew up and just grenaded it. I can remember John Ridgway and Duncan going out through the billboards on the back. I still have a picture home in the race shop of that.
Yeah,
Terry Curtis was always getting those pictures when he was doing the photographic work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, he did some great shots, and he was just always seeming if there was something going on, he was catching the shot of it. And got a lot of memories from his picture work and some of the wild rides we went. But the banks are they save a lot. They will launch you once in a while, but it's certainly a softer blow than getting into a cement wall, say at Adigonish at 100 and some miles an hour. Like,
Yeah.
there's no give. These are not safer barrier walls where the cement is, but we go back to the sport, and we lost Dale Earnhardt, and it changed the sport, Jesse.
Yeah.
The Hans device came out. We didn't have that before, and now it's mandatory. Helmets are only good for so many years.
Full
the
face helmets as
full
well,
face
not the old
helmets.
style,
I remember I was on the tour at the time, and Rolly McDonald and I were the last two to get them because we couldn't get anything to fit our heads.
Jeez.
So,
Jeez.
and it was, you're hot in these race cars,
Yeah.
and we were like, well, we're okay, but we can't get one, right? And
But at least you were willing to get one eventually. There are some drivers out there who still will not do it.
Yeah.
And the series kind of looks the other way, whatever series it is. And it's unfortunate to see because safety is paramount with racing, and especially with these super late models. They're doing 100 miles an hour going into the corner, kind of holding on for dear life. So you got to have everything figured out.
That's the way it kind of works, and so you can't skimp on safety. Another thing, Jesse, like these belts have to be changed every 2 years. You might look at them and think they're good, but that's just a rule, and it's a safety rule, and it's for your own good. And I never, ever skimped on safety, like from fire suits to shoes to gloves, belts, whatever we could get that made us safe. We wanted it because you can't control what happens on a racetrack.
It's better to be uncomfortable than unsafe.
You're right. I
so much rather, the gloves maybe don't feel right.
Yeah.
At least you got them.
Well, our biggest fear in these cars is fire, right? And I've been upside down in them. I've been jammed under guardrails in the sportsman car days, some wild rides. And, in a sportsman car, you got a lot of room. It's open.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we fit in these pro stock cars, and then everything is built around you, so you just got barely room to fit in the seats. And it's another thing, the seat market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good seats out there. I started racing in 1984. I had a bucket seat out of a car. I had seat belts out of a car, and my driving suit was a pair of sweatpants and my hockey sweater. That's what I started racing with my Skidoo helmet on back in those days.
And nobody thought otherwise about
Well, we didn't know any better.
No.
Right? So
No, you don't expect it.
look at where we are today. And that was back at Danny's Speedbowl. So I look at pictures, and I'm like, man, I always knew I was a little crazy, but you were really crazy with that deal.
Little nutty, yeah. So let's, to kind of change the subject a little bit, let's talk about some of the drivers in this field. Corey Hall and Andrew Rogers are having great nights so far, 37 laps in.
They are, but Corey Hall's got some company coming. Ashton Tucker has reeled them in. He's there. So that's going to be interesting to see. Big Orange is coming back through the field. The one car was right there also. So you got about 6 cars up at that front that are really pushing hard to get up early, to get away, to have that open racetrack to go to compete against the Corey Halls and the Andrew Rogers. So we got some good competition, but we haven't seen nothing yet about what we're going to see, Jess.
Yeah, some of these drivers are holding back a little bit. I know a driver like Kyle Reed, Ryan Messer, Dave Oblinas, they're holding back a little bit. The last couple of weeks, Hudson Weston has held back a little bit and really come through late to be on the podium a couple of times. That super late model in the pro stock ranks are really suiting that 43 car, which the sportsman ranks he was good, but I always thought maybe he was ready for something else instead.
Well, I think maybe he has better equipment in the Pro Stock Series, and I watched him run in Prince Edward Island when we were there, and that's not a track he's been at, and he was impressive. Like, he ran up front a lot of that race, and, sometimes these guys get to start up front, but then they go to the back in a hurry, but that was not the case for the 43 car at Oyster Bed. I was really impressed with his run there, and he had a little bad luck the first time we were there. They had a little engine oil leak, and he didn't get to run there. So really, just that was probably his first complete race at Oyster Bend, and it was impressive.
Yeah, and then he went to Petty International Raceway, another track that, with this car, he hadn't run before, and he was a little gun-shy. He admitted it to me, and he was a little nervous, but I think it didn't quite go his way, but I think it started to come to him that night.
Well, the more laps you put in these cars, the more comfortable you get with them. And the big deal from these cars to the sportsman cars, you have power and you have brakes. The sportsman car, you have a little bit of power, and it doesn't take too long that you don't have any brakes.
Yeah, and then you don't have much tires either.
That's
You've got tires, but maybe hold on to them a little longer.
That's right. And, I mean, you got four-wheel disc brakes on these Pro Stock cars. So as stupid as it may sound, good brakes makes a fast race car. I know some people say, well, race car, what do you want brakes for? But a good set of brakes on a Pro Stock car, you can drive it in deep, makes a fast race car.
Yeah, if you can get woed up really in the center of the corner and get that drive off instead of scrubbing the tires center of the corner, so you're going to do a lot better. Yeah.
So we got Devin Snell in the field that had to go to the back, so it'll be interesting to see if that 10 car comes up, helping, sniffing around there also. You know that you're going to see Oblinus. He probably drive this track with his eyes closed. He's been here so much and been successful. So there's still a lot of cars that come up through the field, and the only trouble with this long caution, it lets the tires settle down, and hopefully you don't lose a stagger in your race car. That will happen sometimes. Some of these cars run bleeders on their wheels, and what a bleeder is, it's set in the valve stem to stay at 26 pounds. And sometimes when you're running and they stay hot, it's okay, but when they cool down, the bleeder will leak off on you. And if it leaks off on you, you lose a stagger in your race car, and then it doesn't turn as well. And, stagger, it's the difference between the right side tire and the left side tire is what makes cars turn left. Most of these cars would run 3-inch stagger, that your left side tire would be 3 inches smaller than your right, so that's what turns the car. And it's just a simple thing that we learn when we start, but it's a simple thing that takes your car from being good to being bad in a hurry.
Absolutely, yeah. These drivers have no shortage of adjustments with these race cars to get them up and running. And like we talked about before, sometimes you just don't quite hit it, and sometimes you got what you got.
You do, but like on a long race, they'll have some time to go in and adjust. Of course, pit road is closed right now because of the accident of the 97 car as they get that straightened out on the road, the entry to pit road. The only adjustment you really have in these race cars is your brake control. You have a knob over on the left side of your seat, or usually on the left side of the dash, that you can dial some more front brake or more rear brake. It's a bias control knob, so that you can do. And sometimes when your car is not handling, you can do that just to help it out. You might give it more front brake or rear brake. But that's the only adjustment they've got inside these cars. Other than that, they're on their radio talking to the crew, and if we can make a pit stop, this is what I think I need to do. So they've lifted the red flag. The yellow flag is back out. So it looks like race control, and we'll line up these cars and continue on with this Super 150 for ReCar.
Yeah, ReCar and Wonder Auto and Tire deserve a huge thanks for coming on board and sponsoring this event, really making it possible. 113 laps left to go in this one. Still a long way to go, only 37 laps in. But as you can tell, the engines have fired and the drivers are rolling once again. One driver maybe not rolling on the backstretch is Dylan Cosby. We'll keep an eye on him and see if that Toyota can get fired up once again.
Well, if he doesn't fire up, he doesn't lose his position, Jesse, because when you're under a red flag and the car don't start, that's not your fault. So the track will push them to get them going. Sometimes the batteries get a little dead and they just need a push, jump the clutch, and they'll get it going. Oblina's up to 6, Jess. You're right. He's on the move. I just watch him where he is here in the field, and he came from the back.
Yeah, he's been picking off cars left and right. Really hasn't phased him in the least to be back there. I could even tell when I was doing driver introductions, I looked over and I saw Dave, big smile on his face. Didn't bother him at all to be starting 20th, 22nd, wherever he ended up. He he knows patience. He knows to get around this racetrack. You've really got to have the tires underneath you at the end of it and have the car underneath you, so don't use it all up. Get into the front.
And
Take your wins as you get them.
That's true, but look who's sitting behind him, Dustin Tucker. That's a good run for that 52 car. They were fighting it earlier when I talked to them in the pit, and last time I left them in the pit, they were changing the sway bar, going with another new idea, so it looks like it worked out. He's right there with Oblinus.
Yeah, he started up a little further than he is now, so he's dropped back a couple of spots, but Dustin Tucker is having a solid run at the moment. You mentioned Steve Halpin, and that was one of the favorites going into tonight. I don't see Steve on the racetrack. He might be coming back out, but I'm not sure. Maybe if he peeled off with an issue, we'll find out here with the 03 camp.
Anytime Steve Halpin shows up at Geary, he's always a competitor. They ran very well on the island also. Jeff Armstrong does the work on that car, and they had a good run on the island too, so hopefully he'll get back out. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but our friend from the island, Robbie McEwen, sits in 5th. Kyle Reed sitting back there in 6th, and I know that the boys at Robbie's Towing out west are always tuned in when they can hear it, so shout out to them guys away out west. They're always listening to racing. They just love it.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I know we got some people tuned in. We got some Americans tuned in as well that have only seen a handful of these races on YouTube, so glad to have them tuned in. Oh, there's the 03 car looking a lot worse for wear. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe there was damage. He was involved in an incident earlier, but with a black race car this far away, couldn't quite see any body damage. But you know what? Pretty race car can be a slow car, and an ugly car can be a fast car.
Well, it looks like the nose is gone off it, so whether they yanked the nose and the front fenders, it almost looked like a open wheel modified going by here. But all important points, Jesse. They got to get back out and make the laps and get all the points. This series is running down with one race to go to decide the champions and championship for the year. So both front fenders off, the hood, front bumper off the 03 car are helping.
We know it's not going to run hot tonight. We know that for sure.
No, it's certainly cool out there, and we got no mosquitoes because they were gone looking for skidoo suits. So
yeah, oh yeah. So let's see here. We got the 83 of Corey Hall, as we mentioned. Andrew Rogers in the 14. He's having a career run up front. The 2 of Ashton Tucker, the 23 of Lonnie Somerville, the 40 of Robbie McEwen, the 42 of Kyle Reed, the 1 of Ryan Messer, 48 of Dave Oblinus, the 52 of Dustin Tucker is 9th, and the 43 of Hudson Weston in the top 5. His rookie campaign in a car that has a track championship to its credit with Wyatt Alexander behind the wheel.
So he's got to enjoy his run so far. So we're doubling up the cars here, and they'll zigzag and get back in order. But we'll be anxious to see. It seems like Rogers can fight back on the restart for about 5 or 6 laps. And what that tells me, Jesse, is that the chassis on the 83 car is set up really soft. When you got a soft setup, it takes longer to get heat in the tires. So that could be why it takes Corey Hall 5 or 6 laps to get around the 14 of the Rogers.
The 10 car of Devin Snell comes back out on track. He'll join his St. John counterparts at the rear of the field in the 03 and the 54 and the 94, respectively. Lights out on the Riverview Ford Pace truck. Andrew Rogers in the inside. Corey Hall on the outside. Side by side, ready to put the hammer down and bring this thing back to green. We'll see how this one shapes out. 113 laps to go.
So Corey Hall gets a jump on the restart, but Rogers will fight back on the bottom. Ashton Tucker is right there on the bumper of Corey Hall. He looks like he's chosen the outside, but Rogers will fight back, and Rogers will lead this lap. Corey Hall, meanwhile, still fights back on the outside. Rogers pulls him. Hall will get up equal door to door down the backstretch.
Corey Hall looks for that outside groove on the 14 car. Rogers will give him the room, but it's going to bring Ashton Tucker with him. The White Lightning Auto Center Chevrolet rolls along the outside of the 14 car and puts pressure to his passenger side.
So it's Ashton Tucker looking to follow through on the outside, but the Rogers car fights back on the bottom. You could put a blanket over the top 3 cars. Meanwhile, Robbie McEwen is taking that 4th spot. Kyle Reed looking to take the 5th spot away from Lonnie Somerville. And it's Burger King and Big Orange sitting back watching where the hole is, where to go.
Kyle Reed and Lonnie Somerville putting up a good fight. Just ahead of Dave Oblinus. One of Reed's few runs in a super late model this year. He runs top 5 for the moment at Speedway 660. Dave Oblinus now underneath of Lonnie Somerville. And Oblinus will bring Dustin Tucker with him on the bottom groove.
And it's Rogers fights back. He's still in that 2nd spot on the bottom. Now McEwen is caught up to the back bumper, Ashton Tucker. So put a blanket over the top 4 as they try to decide who's going to get that 2nd spot. Now Ashton Tucker puts it up outside of the Rogers car. Corey Hall will lead that lap. Tucker, Rogers, side by side. McEwen lurking, which way to go? They're all tangled up together, the front 4. Dave Oblinus has rolled into the 5th spot.
And for folks listening at home, believe me, this race is as close as it has been all race long. 47 laps complete this time, 103 to go.
Corey Hall continues to have trouble to get clear. Ashton Tucker would like him to get clear as he's got up in the outside. And it looks like Robbie McEwen's outside, but Dave Oblinus has taken the bottom. So he'll take the 4th spot away that lap. Rogers fights back, so impressive that Corey Hall cannot get away from the 14. Rogers as they continue to fight for that lead.
The spotters for any of those top 5 drivers are earning their pay tonight, continuing to let them know driver outside, driver inside, still there at the door, clear this time. You'll hear all kinds of radio chatter from those drivers.
Corey Hall finally gets free of the 14. Now Ashton Tucker sets his sight on trying to get clear to 14. Oblinus is on the back bumper, but it looks like the outside groove, and Ashton Tucker gets it done. He will slide into the 2nd position. McEwen will try to follow on the backstretch. McEwen door to door with the Rogers car, looking for the 3rd spot.
Your EIT Race Radio's pole sitter tonight is about to lose his podium spot. Robbie McEwen working the outside, 40 versus 14. McEwen has a nose ahead of the 14 but cannot make the pass stick. Dave Oblinus is there.
Meanwhile, up front, Corey Hall is giving the bottom to Ashton Tucker. Just can't seem to get enough grip off the bottom. He's there at the back bumper. The 2 cars up front are bumper to bumper. Now Ashton Tucker looks to the bottom. Hall shuts the door on him, so you put it up outside. What a battle up front between Corey Hall and Ashton Tucker.
Hall and Tucker, we saw this 1 year ago at the 2022 Pro Stock 250. Tucker would get the advantage that night on Corey Hall. Hall would love to return the favor and take away the win from the Littleton driver.
Meanwhile, Oblinus has captured the 3rd spot in the Burger King 48 car. He will work his way to compete with the front 2. Rogers settled into 4th. McEwen 5th. Big Orange has moved up to 6th. Looking to move up a little farther. McEwen slides up the racetrack, but Big Orange can't get the grip he needs to get it done.
Lap traffic to contend with now. Ryan Rains in the 94 about to go down a lap. Brody Lewis has gone down a lap. Kenny McKenzie Jr. in the 85 about to go down a lap, and Ed Bowlby in the 19 car will be next on the docket.
So Hall and Tucker in lap traffic, but they take no time to get around the lap traffic, and they got a clear racetrack ahead of them to settle it again. Oblinus is going to come up through lap traffic. Rogers sits in 4th. McEwen falls back to 5th. Big Orange sits in 6th.
61 laps complete at the line. Ashton Tucker is hounding Corey Hall. Hall, nearly a winner at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway this year in Pro All-Star Series competition. Returned to victory lane at Petty International Raceway. Nearly drives Tucker out into the dirt. He is defending for everything he's got as we approach the halfway point in about 13 laps time.
Corey Hall throwing blocks inside, outside. It looks like the 2-car. Ashton Tucker is the faster car, but he's got to get around them. Gets the bottom, can't get the grip. Hall fights back on the outside. These two are putting on a show for the fans here in the Geary Woods.
5 Pro Stock 250 wins between your top 3 here in the Geary Woods. Dave Oblinas has checked out from the rest of the field. He is 3rd and not worried about what's happened behind him. What is happening behind him, though, is Andrew Rogers and Robbie McEwen, Ryan Messer, Dustin Tucker, the 23 of Lonnie Somerville and Hudson Weston, all in a train trying to get around lap traffic.
Both of these cars up front out of the same race shop, King Racing. You know they know what each other has. It's a driver's contest now, but it's a battle up front for sure. Inside, outside, looking to try to get it done. It looks like the two's going to ride for a little bit. Meanwhile, Dave Oblinas has taken over the 3rd spot. He's got some distance back, but now Rogers has some company as McEwen is fighting on the outside. Robbie McEwen looking to take that 4th spot away.
Steve Halpin's on the move just outside of the top 10. Don't discredit the 03 car. He is working his way through lap traffic, through lead lap cars, and he wants to be back up towards the front before all is said and done.
So the leaders in heavy lap traffic as they start to lap the tail end of the field. Put a car length in between the two. That's all they got. Another 6 car lengths back to Oblinas. McEwen has now taken it away from Rogers, and Big Orange came along with him. So the 1 car, Big Orange, up to the 5th spot.
Lap traffic continues to play a factor. Troy Burke and Clark Moore have gone down a lap. Kenny Snow next on the list. Brody Lewis will be going down another lap here in a moment's notice. Snow has to save it with the 7 car. Good run for the Oysterbed Esso Dodge.
These cars are setting a torrid pace up front. They're about to lap some good cars. Darren McKinnon's got to get going. The leaders are coming, and they're coming in a hurry. Curtis is running along behind McKinnon. He'll be in danger of going a lap down. So the leader's setting a torrid pace here in the Geary Woods. Halfway, 75 laps in the books. Halfway done, another 75 to go to decide this ReCar 150.
Corey Hall has not had a moment to himself all race long to really dial in that car. How much more work does he need to do with that car? He is hooked up and hauling the mail, as Cyril Hall used to say. Curtis Collins now down a lap, but he slides up the racetrack. That opened the door momentarily for Ashton Tucker. Look out, Ian Rasmussen sideways. Oh, it shuts the door on Dylan Gosby. Rasmussen was having a good run, and Gosby maybe not having the run he would have liked to have had here tonight.
Corey Hall goes around the outside of the 18 of Darren McKinnon to put him a lap down. Along comes Ashton Tucker with him. McKinnon, a top runner, but these two up front are setting a torrid pace here as they continue to work their way through the field and put several cars lap down. Oblinas is following them through back about half a track. But Big Orange is on the back bumper now with a 40 car. McEwen looking to take that. So Big Orange rolls into the 5th position. And there's a spinner on the back stretch as a caution flies.
Dylan Gosby, your Super Late Model Series points leader, finds himself stopped in turn number 2. Caution flag comes out. And Brad, this kind of proves a theory I've had all season long. Drivers can't seem to back up winning the race before. You look at Ryan Messer, went to Oysterbed, didn't really have the greatest run. Greg Proud went to Petty, got tore up. Corey Hall went back to Oysterbed, didn't have a great run. And Dylan Gosby won at Oysterbed and has now not had a great run at 660.
So it almost looks like if you win, Jesse, the next week's bad.
Yeah. You know, the drivers we've seen have good luck have been some of the ones that have been finishing second, third, fourth. I mean, Dylan Gosby's had top 5 runs all year. He's finished fourth, third, second, and first. But tonight, I don't know if it's going to roll that way for him.
Well, it's never over till it's over, but this can play havoc with the points. I believe Gosby is leading the points coming into tonight.
Yeah, he's got a dozen or so points lead on the 40. And the 03, Steve Halpin is there as well. Right now, Robbie McEwen's looking like he's in pretty good position.
He is. It looks like the 40 car could gain those 12 points pretty easy tonight. So, although I think Gosby gained a few points maybe in the heat races, but it's never over till it's over. And this is one racetrack that can change the championship. I mean, this is not one of Gosby's stronger racetracks, that's for sure.
Well, it is to a point, and then bad luck seems to, snap and come at him.
Well, like we talked earlier, 1 week you're on top of the world with a race car, and the next week you're at the bottom. That's what this sport does to you. It's almost like golf. One shot's good, the next one's terrible. So,
absolutely. Imagine you hit a hole in one, and then you're hit by lightning on the next the next hole. So.
Well, that's true. And I mean, I watched on the news the other night. Some guy jumped out of a window 15 stories up, and there was a homeless guy sleeping on the bottom, and he landed on him. Like, what's the odds of that?
Oh, goodness. I don't even know how to respond to that one.
So, as I said when we started this thing, the racing gods got to be with you. You got to have luck, too. You can have a good race car, but if luck don't go your way, it's going to be no good to you.
71 laps remain. We are 79 laps into this one, just past the 1 hour mark, it looks like. Corey Hall and Ashton Tucker have been lights out. They have been the class of the field. I believe, I haven't been checking timing and scoring during the racing, but I believe Corey Hall's been having some of the fastest laps of the race. We know Dave Oblinus is fast. Now he's got track position. He's going to be right on the bumper of those top 2. Robbie McEwen there as well, of course. Ryan Messer and Dustin Tucker, we've talked about them over the course of this race. Thought we might see more of them by now.
Ryan Messer's been picking his way through the field. He's up to 5th. He's been noted to ride and maybe only show us what he's got the last 20 or 30.
Bit, yeah.
Right? So he's done that before. I wouldn't count him out of this yet, but it's going to be interesting, Jesse, to see the choose rule, what the 2 car does here with Corey Hall. You know Corey Hall's going to take the outside.
Yeah.
Does the 2 car go down on the bottom, or does he stay up outside? Because that would let Oblinus down on the bottom. So this choose rule is going to be a big deal here in the backstretch.
Yeah, and those top 3 are all out of the Fury shop. They're, they're stout pieces. They're all going to want to work together, but to a point, they've all got their own races to run. Who do you defend against? Who do you work with?
Well, they're all Fury cars out of King Racing, and that is true. But, when you're in a race car, you got no friends. You just want to win. Yeah,
not even your teammates are your friends some nights.
Well, you don't even know their name until it's over and if you need a part or something.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
I don't, these guys won't rough each other up, but they're not going to lay back either.
No, and I saw in that last run, Corey Hall kind of maybe let the car drift out to the outside a little bit, and Ashton Tucker kind of maybe ran out of room, heading back out of it. So these guys will race hard, but they're not going to put each other into the bank or into the fence.
Well, here's the deal. Corey Hall works at King Racing. So if the 2 car breaks,
Whatever he does, he's
goes
got
to King Racing.
Yeah, he's
That's
got
a
to fix
customer.
it. Yeah,
That's a customer.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
is Oblinus. He's a customer.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you got to tread lightly.
Yeah. You're representing the brand at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So under caution once again, just past the halfway point of this event, ReCar and Wonder Auto and Tire coming together to present round number 5 here at Speedway 660. We talked about it. We've got one more round on September 30th at Petty International Raceway. But, Brad, we've got a big event coming up here in a couple weeks. Speed Weekend is coming up here. The 250, a race I know you've run a handful of times. You've run it quite a bit. I guess I've never asked you this. What's your history with the 250?
I wasn't great in the 250s. I think the first one we had, I finished third. If I just seemed like if I was going to have any bad luck, I always broke in the 250. So the 250 wasn't something I look forward to because it was usually a bad luck day, but it is a crown jewel. It is the biggest payday you're going to have. These guys that win a 250, well, you have that win for life. Everybody talks about championships. Well, that's good too. But the 250 is better because the paycheck was better.
I'm going to poke the bear a little bit, if I can. 1 year in a heat race, you and John Fleming got together. And John was looking strong that day. You were looking strong as well. You guys got together. John didn't end up making the show through the heat or a consi or the last chance race. Who ended up with a provisional at the end of it to make the show? You did.
Well, I did, but because that was my past championships got me in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I used that more than once.
Yeah.
The 250 wasn't something we spent a lot of time at.
No.
If you were points racing, you were always saving your best for the points race to get the championship. So
Yeah, then you went to the Tour for a while, and I'm sure the 250 still not a huge priority at that point.
no, we went to the Tour in 05, and it was different seeing a different racetrack all the time, which some of these guys are going through also. So you had to get adapted to the other racetracks, but we were running 100 lappers all the time then. You know, in today's world, well, they weren't running 150 or 250. So we ran them, but we never put a lot of emphasis because a lot of times they weren't for points.
Lights out on the pace truck. Ashton Tucker on the inside, the 83 of Corey Hall on the outside. Curtis Collins finds himself a lap down. He's on the inside of row 2. Dave Oblinus is now on the outside. Kenny Snow, Robbie McEwen in row number 3. Snow is a lap down. McEwen is not. Green flag back in the air.
So it's Ashton Tucker on the bottom, Corey Hall on the outside. Tucker pulls side by side down the backstretch. Hall's going to drive it in deep. Tucker a fight back on the bottom. Little banging and rubbing on the backstretch. Corey Hall will lead that lap, but Tucker doesn't give it up. He fights back on the bottom. Oblina sets back 2 car lengths and watches what's going on in front.
Ashton Tucker looking to make the pass for the lead up front. Corey Hall defends through 1 and 2, gets the run off 2, and holds on to the top spot. Ian Rasmussen has broke. He has called it a night. The big black Dodge will load it up on the trailer.
So Oblinus rolls into the back bumper of Tucker now. Maybe he wants to play up on the outside as Tucker and Corey Hall are single file, but Tucker keeps looking on the bottom, trying to get that edge, to get that spot away. Almost looks like Tucker could be a little bit faster, but can't get the pass.
Further back through the field, Kevin Moore is on the move. He started deep in this field. He works under Dustin Tucker now. Got some lap traffic to contend with, but don't count out the Fredericton driver. The Kerr Smart Energy number 88 is on his way forward.
Messer now is settled back in the 5th spot. He's behind about 2 car lengths behind Robbie McEwen. Rogers back sitting beside him in the 14 car. He'll take that spot, and now it's Dustin Tucker trying to get up. He's going to follow the 14 car back through some lap cars as they continue to roll through this field.
They'll get past Kenny Snow down the backstretch, and Andrew Rogers will lead a trail, and Lonnie Somerville is going to go around. Somerville contact with the 7 car, And 3 St. John drivers spin to avoid. Oh my goodness. What a turn of events we have seen here tonight. Lonnie Somerville will not be thrilled about that one.
He had a good run going. I don't know whether he was lapping the 7 car or just, it's always tough when you're coming up on lap cars to know what they're going to do. So you never want to get taken out by a lap car. But in defense of the lap cars, a lot of times they're just trying to stay out of the road and don't realize like they're taking the line away.
Yeah, that extra inch that you don't pull the wheel towards the bottom of the racetrack. Maybe that's the inch that sends Lonnie Somerville spinning.
Exactly. That's what makes the difference. The snow car from Prince Edward Island, he's going to put his son in that, he was telling me, Jesse, when there was an oyster bed, going to let him in it for a couple of races. I believe maybe at Petty will be, his son's been in it before, but he tends to give up the wheel to the young guy.
Yeah, absolutely. The Snow family from Prince Edward Island, they have a long history of late model and street stock competition, so glad to have them on board. And we are 86 laps into this one, so we're past the halfway point. We're approaching lap 100. Timing still looks good, but up front, man, Ashton Tucker really dogging that 83 car the last couple laps.
He has been, and Corey Hall's been giving him the bottom. He's got side by side, but you get such a run off the outside here coming off the turns that you can be there, but the guy on the outside gets the run and he pulls you down the back stretch. So it's long from over, that's for sure, but they got to be careful. Blenas is sitting there watching for one of them to make a mistake, and he's right there.
Yeah, David Blenas, I think he's going to let the young guns out front tire themselves out, and the old veteran could come through at the end.
Well, I don't like to say old, you know. We all get there after a certain age. We just say experience. We stop
advanced
now.
experience. Yeah, scuff the tires. Yeah.
But Oblenas is no slouch, and he can ride there for.
No.
He may be sitting there saving his stuff while these guys are burning up the brakes and tires.
If Dave and I raced shopping carts in the middle of Walmart, he'd trade paint with me. I'm sure he would.
He'd probably spin you out before the first corner.
Yeah, well, I might deserve it. Yeah, I might get a little.
And you talk about that
tight when I turn.
Back in the Miramichi days, we used to have a shopping cart race on the racetrack for a fundraiser.
Good.
And then they turned it into, decided that wasn't good enough. They turned it into a bed race, so we had to make beds one year.
Oh my goodness!
So there was all kinds of that stuff went on back in the day.
Oh goodness!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was always too big to fit in the cart, so I had to be the pusher, you know.
Jeez. Well, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
somebody's got to push. Yeah.
So
86 laps into this one, and you know, seeing a couple of spins outside of obviously the Chris Duncan incident. Seeing a couple spins, not really seeing a whole lot of drivers get tore up outside of the 03. I kind of coined a phrase when I was announcing some iRacing events earlier in the year, in the off season. The 03 got a little kermuckled, as it were. Put that on a T-shirt.
There now. He's certainly got the open wheel modified look to it right now anyway, but fact is he's still running, and Raz Usman returns to the track. I thought he was done for the night.
He does. He pulled off in a hurry, and I was certain that car was done. Maybe they had a tire going down. Maybe something was dragging. So I guess I was a little quick to judge, but the 81 back out on track. I'm not sure how many laps down he would be or when the caution came out, but we talked earlier in the afternoon. I did an interview with him. You can find on the Facebook page. He said, we just need some luck this year. The car has been fast. We saw it in the heat race. He was really strong in the heat. They just need some luck. They've got some top 10 runs this season.
Yeah, and he's certainly improved. I watched him when he first came, and he struggled a lot with that race car. And I tell you, the first time I was really, really impressed with him was in Prince Edward Island, and that's not a place he's seen, Jesse. And he ran good over there, and he stayed out of trouble all day, and I think he came out of there with a top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. For a race that he had to travel 6 hours to get to, one way. You thought you had a long drive.
Well, I know what it was. I used to travel 5 hours every week to come down here, and I was saying that to some race fans today. I wish that 4-lane had been open when I was coming here every week, because you certainly save a lot of time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I want to send a special shout-out to a couple of friends tuning in, Charlie Sanborn and Lindsay Walker tuning in from the state of Maine, enjoying tonight's racing. They don't have a lot of experience with Speedway 660 events, but they're enjoying themselves. They got a newborn at home that's already been to the racetrack a handful of times, so
it's just
enjoying
cool.
themselves.
It's cool, Jesse, with technology today that people can sit at home and tune into this, and it really piques their interest to come and see it live. Sitting at home and listening to you and I is one thing, but being here, seeing it for real, it really makes them want to come to the racetrack.
Absolutely, and I've talked to him a handful of times. I'm trying to get him to come to the racetrack. I'm wearing him down a little bit. Maybe I have to work on Lindsay a little bit. Maybe I have to convince her to bring him along, bring the kid along, do all that. But, there's always next year. And you and I, with this, with people tuned in at home, you and I got to do a good job and paint the picture, as it were.
Well, we got to make it exciting and make sure we do a good job and keep people on the edge of their seat. And it's pretty easy with this series. I've done some series where it was a boring race and you got to make it sound good, but this is good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no shortage of action on track here tonight, especially with the Super Late Model Series. This is what you have come to see here at Speedway 660. Ashton Tucker on the inside, Corey Hall back on the outside. 86 laps complete, green flag back in the air.
So Ashton Tucker gets a good jump on it. It looks like he's going to edge Corey Hall down the backstretch. Can he keep it there? Corey Hall washes up the racetrack. Ashton Tucker will take the lead away from Corey Hall. The first time tonight that Corey Hall does not have the lead, and we got a spinner, and the caution will fly.
We'll see here. Yes, the caution will indeed fly. Brody Lewis goes around off the front bumper of the 7 of Kenny Snow. Those two might not have been happy with each other over in 3 and 4, and I think maybe Kenny Snow just kind of got tired of it.
Well, they'll pay the price. They'll both go to the back, and they can have another conversation or give another rub and go do another little spin if they like, but they will be punished for not being happy, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Those two drivers have got a long drive home this weekend to go back to Prince Edward Island. I'm sure they'll be thinking about some of the racing they've done with one another.
Well, one thing, they can't drive side by side on that bridge, so that's pretty safe.
Yeah, no, you kind of have to stay in line on the bridge, As much as you might want to, got to stay in line.
So Kenny Snow actually owns the Esso rate at the racetrack, Jesse, and I didn't know that, and that's the place we always stop and buy fuel and get whatever we want for the racetrack. Well, he actually owns that.
It's not even that. I think the house is there, too. I know the car and the trailer sit there as well, so if anybody has a shorter drive to the racetrack, it's maybe Luke McLaughlin down the road and Kenny Snow over to Oysterbed. That's about it.
Well, I think Kenny is now with them closing the bottom gate that you got to come up and go around, so he could actually just drive the race car down there. Never mind the trailer.
Yeah, right through the traffic circle and hit the road. Yep.
So Ashton Tucker finally gets the lead away from Corey Hall, so it'll be interesting to see where Ashton chooses on the choose lane here. I would say he's probably going to take the outside with having to get that way to get around Corey Hall, where Corey Hall's kind of like the outside. Dave O'Blenis is sitting in third. He's been strong all night, come up through the field. The 40 car, Robbie McCune, has been steady. He's been hanging around the top 5 all night. He's got a good hot rod under him, so he sits in 4th. Big Orange in the number 1. Ryan Messer takes the 5th spot. Rogers sitting in 6th. Dustin Tucker having a good run, sitting in 7th. The 43 of Weston in 8th. Kyle Reed 9. And big Kevin Moore has got his way up to the top 10. So that's the top 10 as we're under caution here. For a spin of Brody Lewis, off the bumper Kenny Snow. So I would say the 7 and the 22 will go to the back of the field for their shenanigans. And we'll start it back up here and get some more green flag racing going with the exciting action that we're seeing up front. My buddy's getting some new batteries in his microphone, so I'll just carry you through till Jesse gets back. But having a great time here at Speedway 660, bringing this race to you live. It's certainly a nice tower to work out of up here. We can hear each other, and we know where we're going, and the equipment's been good, so it's been fun. You've got the young and the old. Jesse the young, and I'm the old, and the race car driver and announcer. So the joke was I traded the steering wheel in for a microphone, and this is where I'm landed with the young gun in the booth next to me.
There, we changed the proverbial tires on the race car. We can send it back out on track. All righty. You know what? We're going to have a little check out here with race fans tuned in. How's everybody doing out there tonight? There we go. We got Ashton Tucker up front. Who's an Ashton Tucker fan? Any Corey Hall fans in behind him? How about the hometown driver, Dave Oblinas? Is Dave Oblinas going to end up in victory lane? Anybody come over from the island? Robbie McEwen maybe going to end up in victory lane. Got a couple of cheers there. Brad, she's a chilly night out there, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, the wind is, I was, while you were doing the other classes, I was sitting out there for about 5 minutes, and then I'd come in and get warm again. Hats off to the fans that are sitting there, and the nice part of it, it's really a good show, Jesse. It's been exciting up front. Nobody's running away with nothing here, and I think we're going to see a real show to the end. But as I guessed, Ashton Tucker picks the outside and puts Corey Hall down on the bottom where he hasn't been comfortable.
This is interesting. We haven't seen this yet. What does, you know, you think about this, Ashton Tucker is still in control of this race. So he's got to be the one to fire off first. Corey Hall can't jump him.
No, and we've seen some places where Corey Hall really gets a jump on it, but these two cars have the same transmission. And I notice now that the guys have caught on that Corey has a quick restart. Even Rogers has been equal with him tonight, so the guys have to be on the end of the game. But smart move by Ashton Tucker. Corey Hall hasn't been really great on the bottom, so he puts him down there to see what he got.
Still 25 cars left on the racetrack. Off turn number 4. Green flag back in the air.
And Corey Hall gets a big jump, and Ashton Tucker did not get a good jump. And the caution comes out as Corey Hall jumped the start, and we will line them back up again.
Got a little spooked there. I saw the ambulance lights come on and saw everybody whoa up, and I got looking around to see what happened.
Well, I think the ambulance lights are blue instead of or orange or yellow instead of red. So I think they just put them on to make everybody slow down, because when you throw a quick caution on a restart, it's dangerous to rack up a bunch of cars.
Right, absolutely. So we're going to try this one more time. Get some green flag running in. We've got 63 laps left to go. And we assume at about 14 and a half seconds a lap. 4 laps a minute. Probably about, if green flag run, maybe 16, 17 more minutes of racing. Maybe.
Well, I think we're not done with cautions yet.
No, I would not say so. Off turn number 4 one more time. Green flag back in the air.
So once again, Corey Hall gets the jump on Ashton Tucker. Tucker will have to fight back on the outside and pin him, but he can't. Corey Hall goes down, shoves it down to the bottom to take that lane away. We'll see who's going to play nice now after jumping the restart. Tucker goes to the bottom of Hall on the backstretch. They go door handle to door handle. And Ashton Tucker gives Corey Hall a little butt.
Right up the racetrack goes the 83 car. Good save to be able to hold on to it, and good on Ashton Tucker to back out of it and let Corey Hall gather it up. Tucker back down to the inside. He'll bring Dave Oblinas with him. Side-by-side battle, a couple of Clattenburg cars. Messer up to 4th, and Robbie McEwen on his outside.
Single file up front. Dave Oblinas is there. He's on the back bumper. He's looking under Ashton Tucker. He's going to get underneath Ashton Tucker on the backstretch. Tucker up on the outside. Oblinas on the bottom. Dave Oblinus trying to work his way up to take that second spot away from Ashton Tucker.
Devin Snell has been back on the move. The 10 car has worked his way up towards the top 10 after an incident earlier in the race with Kyle Reed, the driver in front of him.
So the Big Orange is up to the 4th spot. McEwen back to the 5th. Tucker gets in front of Oblinus now, and he shuts down the bottom lane. He sets his sight back on Corey Hall. Hall has the biggest lead he's had all night long. He's got about 5 car lengths on Ashton Tucker, and that's the biggest lead we saw the 83 have yet tonight.
95 laps complete and 55 left to go. The fastest lap on the racetrack belongs to the 83 car. That time by was a 14:194.
And we talked about Big Orange saving his car. Well, he is on the back bumper. Oblinus, he puts it up outside. Messer looking to go around the outside of the 48 car. He'll drive it deep into the 3rd turn. Coming off a 4, he's almost there. Continues to roll around the outside of Oblinus.
Look at a little contact way further back. Ed Bowlby almost turned Greg Fay. They had to get out of it. Lonnie Somerville was there as well and almost collected. Everybody keeps on going, but they are mired deep in traffic and losing pace to the top drivers up front. Ryan Messer to the outside. He'll work around Dave Oblinus and up to 3rd.
Ryan Messer takes the 3rd spot away from Oblinus. He'll set his sight on Ashton Tucker. We talked about Messer saving something. It looks like that's what he's done. He certainly reeled in Oblinus in a hurry. Now he sets his sight on Ashton Tucker. McEwen sits 5th. Here comes Dustin Tucker in the 6th spot.
Dustin Tucker is knocking on the door of the top 5. If he can reel in Robbie McEwen, he should be able to dispatch of him. 101 laps complete, 49 left to go, 48 to go as Corey Hall just crossed the strike. Brody Lewis down another lap in the 22. Clark Moore in the 54 about to go down a lap once again.
So the leaders will start to get into the lap cars. Corey Hall about a 5 car length over Ashton Tucker. Another 4 car lengths back to Messer. Oblinus sits in 4th. Here comes McEwen to the back bumper. Oblinus sitting in 5th. Dustin Tucker 6th. Weston sits back in 7th. A good run for him along with Rogers in the 8th spot. Into heavy lap traffic comes the leaders.
Pretty well single file all around Speedway 660. Troy Burke and the 20 of Greg Fay race side by side. Kenny McKenzie Jr. Blue flame coming out of the side of that race car. He'll have to keep an eye on that. Curtis Collins on his outside. Leaders are coming. Ashton Tucker is closing back in on Corey Hall.
Tucker has got to the back bumper of Corey Hall. They will have to go through lap traffic here. There's about 10 cars in front of them running double file. So it could come down to who gets what lane to get by the lap cars. Corey Hall on the outside. Tucker will follow him back by the outside. But heavy lap traffic. Tucker goes to the bottom.
Ed Bowlby in the 19 car. He's not really making any friends out there. Trying to hold on to the spot that he's got. But Steve Halpin is to his inside. Halpin wants to make the pass. Ryan Rains, Troy Burke, Kenny McKenzie Jr. nearly 3 wide. Almost 3 wide for Corey Hall. Backs out of it. He's going to let the driver settle it out ahead of him.
Corey Hall's going to get pinched in behind the car. Snow. Tucker puts it up on the outside. He's going to pinch him down to the bottom and may take the lead from him here if the outside lane gets going. And that looks like what's going to happen. Curtis Collins ahead of Tucker. Corey Hall on the bottom, but he is caught behind the 7 car. Down on the bottom. double file as the lap cars are running double file in front of the leaders.
Ashton Tucker in the 2 car trying to use the outside to get around Corey Hall. Hall thinking about 3 wide. Contact with Kenny Snow. Everybody's able to keep going, but that was real aggressive out of the 83 car. He's lucky he didn't climb a wheel and end up in the beach.
Corey Hall saw an opening. He made it happen 3 wide and got away with it. Tucker's following him through the lap traffic as he tries to get around the 27 of Collins. Tucker's right there on the back bumper as they got a few more lap cars to get around here, but what a move by the 83 of Corey Hall.
Dave Oblinus back up to the 3rd spot now. He's got around Ryan Messer. Messer had a mirrorful of Dustin Tucker. Tucker, who has got around Robbie McEwen, so McEwen has fallen back to 6th. Hudson Weston is on the move in the 43 car. Great run for the St. Martin's driver.
Meanwhile, Corey Hall is getting through the lap traffic. Ashton Tucker is following Oblinus also. Messer has caught up to them now as they start to clear a few more lap cars to get around, but the biggest pack of them are behind them now. Tucker gets around now Fahey. So going to lap another car. So Ashton Tucker on the back bumper, Corey Hall coming through the field.
They'll get around Ryan Rains in the 94. Now it's Troy Burke and Ed Bowlby duking it out for position. Leaders are coming. Race control will be in their ear, letting them know that Corey Hall and Ashton Tucker are coming in a hurry.
Couple more lap cars in front of the leader. Somebody's off the pace on the backstretch. It's Lewis. He's going to try to nurse it to pit road. So that's both 2 cars nursing it to pit road, so there will be no caution. So they're clear of the field. Oblinus, Messer. Now Dustin Tucker got around McEwen in lap traffic. So Dustin Tucker is up to 5th.
They've got around Ed Bowlby now. Troy Burke is next on the list in the 01 car. The JS Plumbing and Heating. Chris Fournier Remax Toyota will go down a lap to Corey Hall and Ashton Tucker. Andrew Rogers off the pace momentarily. He'll lose a ton of ground. Well, the 14 car had a great run going, and it has gone sour. Steve Halpin off to the pit area. The 03 car might be done.
3 cars pit late here. Up front now, it's a clear track for Corey Hall. Ashton Tucker. Oblinus sits in 3rd. Messer is 4th. Dustin Tucker is 5th. Behind him in the 6th spot is McEwen as he backed up a spot. But up front, they got a clear track. You're about a car length apart. Ashton Tucker did not get a good start on the last restart. He has something to prove here as he comes to the back bumper of the 83 of Corey Hall.
What kind of moves will Corey Hall make to defend the challenges of Ashton Tucker? These two have 3 250s between them. Dave Oblinus and Ryan Messer, former 250 winners here in the Geary Woods. 23 laps left to go. 127 complete and 23 to go in the ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire.
So it's go time. Ashton Tucker puts it underneath Corey Hall, trying to get the job done. Door handle to door handle down the backstretch. Tucker drives it in deep on the bottom. Corey Hall fights back in the outside. Tucker will lead that lap as he continues to fight back on the inside. Edges Corey Hall down the backstretch. They'll go side by side down into 3. Coming back off of 4. Ashton Tucker has the lead here with about 21 laps to go in the 150. We'll see if the 2 car of Ashton Tucker can drive away from Corey Hall. Oblinus 3rd. Messer's got company. Dustin Tucker is there.
19 laps remain. Ashton Tucker has pulled 2 car lengths now on the 83 of Corey Hall. Did Hall use up his stuff too early trying to defend Or is Ashton Tucker just that quick here tonight in the Geary Woods? We'll find out in just a few short laps. They close in on Ian Rasmussen, Darren McKinnon, Kenny Snow, and Lonnie Somerville.
So did Ashton Tucker save something, or did Corey Hall burn it up? Meanwhile, back in third is comfortably Oblinas is running. But in the fourth spot is where the battle is. Dustin Tucker and Messer are going at it. McEwen sitting back watching for that fourth spot, as you could put a blanket over them too.
Dustin Tucker looking to do Baby Bane proud here tonight. He wants to end up on the podium, but he's got a long way to get there and only 14 laps left to go.
So with 14 to go, it's been Ashton Tucker gets the lead up front. 5 car lengths back to Corey Hall, another 5 back to Oblinas. The real battle is for fourth with Messer and Dustin Tucker. McEwen sits there. As they got through the lap traffic, they got a pretty clear track, but the leaders are going to be in lap traffic here for the end of the race. Ashton Tucker has caught the back of the field, and he'll have to work his way through this lap traffic.
Dylan Gosby has cracked the top 10 in the 16 car, looking to salvage a good points finish here tonight. Your points leader has not had the night he would like to have, but he is in salvage mode. 139 complete. This time by, it'll be 140, and we will see 10 laps to go in the ReCar 150, presented by Wonder Auto and Tire.
Ashton Tucker picking his way through lap traffic with 10 to go here in the ReCar 150. Can he get the job done? There's about 6-7 lap cars ahead of him, but he has been picking them through single file. Back in his Corey Hall's about 4 or 5 car lengths back, so he has some breathing room to get it done.
This looks like it might be too little too late for Corey Hall. Darren McKinnon and Kenny McKenzie Jr. have now gone down a lap with just 7 laps to go as they hit the stripe this time. Ashton Tucker is in cruise control up front. He is in command of this race.
Ashton Tucker around the lap car, Snow on the backstretch. He gets the job done. He'll come up onto the 27 car Collins. That's the next car to be lapped. Oh, and we're going to have a late caution as the Kyle Reed spins and he brings it back on the racetrack.
Wow, save of the season. Kyle Reed. He made contact with somebody on the front stretch, dipped the wheels off, and sent her through the mud puddle here just past the start-finish line. And that thing should have been sent up into the fence. Oh, okay. He's not happy with Greg Fay.
That's the car.
Yeah.
That's who Kyle Reed come around to tell him he's not happy with him. But what a save when you get down in that mud. But that's something that Ashton Tucker did not want to see.
No. He did not want to see that.
He did not get a good start on the last restart. Just a week ago, they led 147 laps with 13 to go. They're walking away with the Sizzler. Late caution comes out. 13 to go. Blakehorn catches him and goes by for the win.
Comes back from 2 laps down to do it. That has to sting a little bit more.
Yeah. So, you hate to see a late caution, but this restart is going to decide the race.
I believe so. I think somebody's going to walk away from this restart real happy, and somebody's going to be real disappointed. Who's it going to be? We're going to find out in 7 laps time when the checkers fly.
We certainly will, and we also, Jesse, got the danger. Now we're doubling up the field again. And you know that with 7 laps to go, those poor old helmets get so tight they forget about anything being nice to each other.
Yeah, but one thing the drivers are going to have on their side, the lap cars are going to be pulled, and it's going to be clear sailing for the top guys to all race with one another.
It is, but there's going to be no give here with 7 to go for any position. Friends are out the window, colleagues, whatever.
Yeah.
That's all out the window.
if you've had 6th or 7th for 135 laps, somebody's going to take it from you now, you're not going to let them.
No, you're going to fight for every inch, every centimeter of real estate you got out there. So
Absolutely.
So what happened, there was a puddle of water off on the side here. So when Reed got off, splashed water out in the racetrack. So speedy dry on the outside with 7 to go.
Yeah, we've had that puddle there all season long. We've had to, soak up drivers that have run through it from time to time, but there's going to be a little bit of a beach, as it were, on the front stretch.
It is, and you're going to lose a little bit of grip up in that speedy dry up there, so I'm not so sure I want to be out so far out there. It's out of the groove, but when we get racing, they shove you out there after 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting on this restart also.
If you let them shove you out there, if you don't dispatch them right away, you're opening yourself up to maybe having your tires dipped out into the grass.
Exactly, and you don't want that in the late going. We've seen some good cars, Jesse, go a lap down, like Darren McKinnon.
Yeah.
That's a good race car.
Yeah.
That's the torrid pace that these leaders have been setting here tonight, to be able to put quality cars like that laps down. These guys have been going at it hard all race long.
Yeah, and I mean, there are drivers out there who I think are just trying to salvage a good finish, that they've got somebody like Kevin Moore or Hudson Weston or Devin Snell. Andrew Rogers fell back quite a bit. There was a little bit of a scuffle there during the green flag run. He fell back quite a bit, but what a run he's had to start up front and contend for the win for so long. Even, it's not going to end the way he wanted it to end, but he's got a lot to hang his helmet on.
He certainly does, because he was a factor the first 50 of those laps of the race. He hung right there with the top runners, first and second place car. He was right there with them. So obviously the handling went away a little bit on that, and there's not a lot you can do about it, but impressive to run up there. He didn't touch them. Clean racing, holding his own.
There's one thing we haven't mentioned with this Super Late Model Series. These are 4-tire races.
They are. Every team gets 4 tires. The neat deal of this is the way they've structured it. 4 tires on this tour is $1,040. Every car that starts the feature gets $1,000. So I've heard all summer guys saying, well, I can come here and race for $40 to start. And that's been a problem, Jesse, for years and years. You come to a race and you got a tire bill and you go home with $200.
Yeah.
So that's been a big, big key, and I've heard it time and time again all summer long in the pit from the drivers.
Yeah, they've got to run their heat races and their feature on the same set of tires. When they go to the next event, they can bring out some old tires that they've run before, but you risk running 160 or 70 lap old tires at that point.
Right. So it's fair for everybody. Yeah. If you're going to come and race, you're guaranteed $1,000 if you start. So everybody just buys 4 new tires and puts them on, and everybody's on the same playing field all night long.
And the tire selection, too, is nice because they've kind of mapped it out that if you have a bad finish one week, you'll be one of the first ones to pick tires the next week. And
right.
It kind of goes backwards. So somebody like Ashton Tucker, who, if he can come away with winning this thing, he's going to be picking in the last group when we go to Petty in September. Yeah.
Right. Which is fair.
Yeah.
And race fans might wonder what's so big about picking tires, but there's only so many 86 and a quarters in the tire shed and 83s, and then you got to change your stagger around. So if you're running, say, with 83s and 86 and a quarters, your choice. Yeah. You want to get there early while there's still some.
Well, let's think about it this way. If you're sitting there telling yourself, what's the big deal about tires? They're round, they're all the same, what does it matter? When you go get a turkey in a couple of months' time at the grocery store, you're going to wish you'd been there early.
Definitely so. There is a difference.
So we got some updates here. Unfortunately, the 88 of Kevin Moore is going to have a early end of this race.
And mechanical or
Might have to do with communication.
communication?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way we can put that, which is a tough break because Kevin Moore came up through the field and was having a solid run with that car.
Yeah, he was having a good run, so little technical difficulties, whatever, and his night's done early, so obviously maybe stepped out of line on something or other.
Yeah, and for safety reasons, these drivers need to be able to listen to race control. They need to be able to be told what to do if you need to get in line or pull off the racetrack or what have you. And, if there's an issue and you're not quite hearing that, then unfortunately they've got to make the choice.
It's true, and we can't skimp on safety. Like this is a fast sport, and it's got to be safe for everybody. So you got to have some communications there for sure.
Yeah. So looking now, we're seeing.
Looks like we're going to double them up here, maybe. Yep.
20 cars left out on the racetrack. Of the original 27 that rolled through the gate today, of course, one driver not making the start of the event, John Rankin. John just had a tough day overall with that car. In the beach once, in the beach a second time. Unfortunately, he's on the crew side now.
Yeah, he is, and they bent some stuff the first time he was in, he told me, so God knows what they bent the second time, right? So they decided to park it, and Joe's laying on the back. Look at Ashton Tucker taking the bottom on this restart.
Yeah, making Corey Hall go to the outside. Tucker will be in command of this restart, and it's only 7 laps till we see the checkers on this one. So we are going to have a barn burner of a finish, as it were. Lights should be out on the pace truck this time. Nope, we're going to do another lap or so. Make sure everybody's tightened up. Everybody's good to go.
So, Jesse, we talked about the speedy dry. Is that why Ashton Tucker went to the bottom? I would have did that.
Yeah, you know what? That's a real smart move.
Yeah, that's heads up because there's some speedy dry right where the outside car is going to run here.
Yeah, you're not going to soak that all up and get rid of it.
No.
You're going to have to deal with it for these 7 laps.
No.
So
heads up by the 2 team to go down there.
1 lap to go given to the drivers. Lights out on the pace truck. The ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire coming to a close. Who is going to park it in Riverview Ford Victory Lane? We are going to find out. It's Ashton Tucker on the inside, Corey Hall on the outside, Dave Oblinus and Ryan Messer in the row behind them. Green flag back in the air.
Ashton Tucker drives it deep down. Corey Hall drives it deep on the outside, side by side, down the backstretch. Give the edge to Tucker a little bit. He'll drive it in deep on the bottom.
Oh, Darren McKinnon's going to go around. Caution flag comes out. Sorry to cut you off, Brad. We saw 3 wide going into the corner, and Darren McKinnon found the worst of that and ends up over in the beach.
Well, 3 wide don't work very often here, Jesse. We saw Corey Hall get away with it in lap traffic.
Yeah,
and that was impressive.
That was impressive. That really should have ended up a lot worse for him than if it was anybody else. They would have had that car in a flatbed.
Yeah, but he got away with it.
He did. He did.
So Darren McKinnon goes to the pit. So obviously he got some damage on that. He went directly to the pit. So the 18 car McKinnon to the pit, and we'll have another restart. Lap cars to the back, of course. All the leaders up front. And if I was a guessing man, I would say Ashton Tucker will take the bottom again. Dave Oblinus tucked right in behind him on the bottom also there, Jess. So
I think at this point, unless something really crazy happens, I think it's a race between the top 2.
Well, the restart.
Yeah.
But look who's lurked into 3rd, Jesse.
Yeah, Ryan
Messer.
Yeah, Ryan's been there, and he's closed in on some green flag runs, and then he's fallen back a little bit and paced himself. I don't know what kind of short run speed that one car has, but we saw over at Oyster Bed, he was kind of a 6th, 7th place car as well, and ended up on the podium at the end of her.
Exactly. So you can't count him out. If anything happens to the front 2, they're right there. Oblinus is right there. This is exciting with 7 laps to put all these top runners all up in a handful to decide who's going to win.
This is the kind of racing you're going to see with the Super Late Model Series, not just at the end of the year, but in years into the future. You're going to see it next year. You're going to see it the year after. If you have any doubts about the validity of this series and whether you're going to support it or not, think about the racing we've seen in 5 rounds now.
We've had great finishes, great racing at every track we've been at. And that's impressive, Jesse, when you can think that you go to 3 different racetracks and do that. That's fine to come and do it at one racetrack all the time.
Yeah.
But this series has done it at 3 different racetracks.
Yeah, these drivers have been antsy to get back to Speedway 660. A lot of them, it's their home turf. It's the place that they're going to run the best. But for now, they've got to put it all on the table, put their chips on the table, show their hand as best they can, and try to come away with a victory.
So the restart will be so important up front with Ashton Tucker, Corey Hall, Ryan Messer sitting there, Dave Oblina sitting there, Dustin Tucker is up to 5th, McCune 6th. You can put a blanket over these guys, and with 7 laps to go, there's not going to be a lot to give. This may not be the last caution we've seen, Jesse.
Yeah, Devin Snell has moved his way back up into the top 10, so great run for him to rebound and come back through. Lonnie Somerville knocking on the door of a top 10 finish. I'm sure it's not quite what they would have hoped for, but they will do everything they can to bring this thing home in one piece. Up front, it's Ashton Tucker and Corey Hall on the hammer. Green flag in the air.
So they go side by side down into the corner. Corey Hall drives deep, so does Tucker. Side by side down the backstretch, but Corey Hall cannot get away. Ashton Tucker drives it really deep in. Ashton Tucker back. Corey Hall will lead that lap. Tucker will have to drive it deep into the corner again. He does, and they go side by side down the backstretch.
Devin Snell has broken, come to a stop in the infield. We continue on, but up front, Corey Hall back to the front of the field.
Did Corey Hall save something? Did Ashton Tucker use up the race car? But he's got to get there in a hurry. There's not a lot of laps left here to decide the winner. Meanwhile, it's going to be Messer running 3rd, Oblina's 4th. Corey Hall, 2 car lengths of Benny's down the backstretch.
We'll bring you to the finish of this one. It'll be 3 laps to go. This time, Corey Hall leaves the inside open. Ashton Tucker is there. They'll head down the backstretch. Tucker closes in, but Hall shuts the door on the inside. This time, popsicle sticks in the air. 2 to go for Corey Hall.
Ashton Tucker and Corey Hall get into each other on the backstretch. Backs out. Corey Hall's going to get the lead. Tucker fights back on the bottom. 1 to go this time by.
White flag in the air, 1 lap to go, side by side. Ashton Tucker looking for a last lap pass. They'll lean on each other. Corey Hall, Tucker down into the dirt. Corey Hall is going to win the ReCar 150. We'll head down trackside. What a finish for round number 5. Corey Hall, the first 2-time winner of the Super Late Model Series.
So the finish doesn't get much better than that, as Jesse will head down to trackside to do the interviews in Victory Lane. But what a run by Ashton Tucker. He had the lead, looked like he had the race won. A late caution comes out. He'll have to settle for 2nd. Corey Hall will take the win. I think there was some contact on the backstretch. And how about the run for Ryan Messer? Big Orange comes home in 3rd as he saved the car. And around goes Corey Hall spinning out with a victory spin out on the front lane. But what a finish here for the ReCar 150. Corey Hall, the second only driver to win 2 on this tour. And Jesse will catch up with him in Victory Lane.
Here, ladies and gentlemen, coming off the body. This car earned its victory. This driver earned this victory here tonight. A former winner of the prestigious Pro Stock 250 on Speed Weekend. An absolute dogfight to win the ReCar 150 presented by Wonder Auto and Tire. Climbing out of the car, let's hear for Corey Hall. He'll get the helmet and the Hans device. Corey, I think this one's going to be talked about for a while.
Yeah, up here, we're kind of a experimental setup, and for a second, I was thinking I switch back to works. Minute with at that now. Necessarily looking for, but yeah, it was pretty intense racing with Ashton. I don't know. He's pretty popular here, so I'm sure I'm the villain in this story. But anyways, good racing with him, and congrats to Ryan, him on second. Just really happy to get another win. It feels like we've been kind of on a slump or win, so it's good to get one. Unfortunate to have the damage. I don't like that, but anyways, thank you to King Competition, Plant Seafood, GS Race, Robbie's Towing, Livingston Steel, VTP Construction, Brembo. I'm sure there's a lot of people I forget every single time. Chris Fournier Remax, of course, and thanks to this series for putting this on. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I know you're going to be back here in a couple weeks for the 250. I know you're already thinking about it, but you two are going to find each other on track once more in a couple weeks.
I mean, I'm a racer, so I'm sure we'll talk it out. I'm not upset by any means, but probably go back with what they had for a setup. Really proud of King Competition for putting these cars up at the front and having the speed that we do, so it's really cool.
Two-time winner this season with the Super Late Model Series, Corey Hall in Riverview Ford Victory Lane. Second place finish here for the driver from Littleton. He gave it all he had here tonight. Let's hear for Ashton Tucker. Ashton, what can we say about that entire race, about the finish? You guys were so evenly matched. You had the advantage at one point. He had the advantage at another. You guys just really put on a show for the fans.
Yeah, me and Corey were really even. We just didn't need a late race restart. He was a bit better on short runs. We were really good on long runs, a lot better than them, I think. But a few late race restarts cost us, but that's racing. You never know what's going to happen, and she was a good battle to the end.
You've been on both ends of it before to win these races and to come home second. You know, this is a turnaround for the luck you guys have had with this series this year. It's not been great luck, but you guys have turned it around a little bit.
You know, we've been turning around pretty good, a couple of seconds and a win there, so we can't complain about that going into Speed Weekend. And good to give this car a shakedown. It's pretty good, and some more fine-tuning. I think we might be able to park over there in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, who gets the thanks tonight on this two-car?
Obviously, all the crew, sponsors, they're a huge help, and Corey and Andrew and King Competition, they're a great help. This is a car they built for us, and it's been great for us everywhere we went, and we put on a hell of a show, so that's all that matters.
That's Ashton Tucker's second place run here tonight. This will be a popular third place run. He had to fight for this one as well. Let's hear for Ryan Messer. Ryan, another great run here tonight. Looked like it was going to be maybe a top 5 run. This car started to come to life a little bit, but stout competition tonight to end up third.
Yeah, I'll definitely take third. Been a little ill this week, so haven't really felt like racing today, but we got in, tried it. Dad and the whole crew gave me an awesome car to work with, made my job a little easier. Yeah, that was a wild one.
You had 27 cars roll through the gates here today. How much did that affect you? Of like, you know, we're going to have some stiff competition tonight.
Oh, for sure. There was many cars that could have won this thing, and that made qualifying very important. So we were able to get a decent starting spot in the top 10. So knew we just had to maintain for a while and then see if we could get up there a little bit. So I'll definitely take third.
And you guys all have 250 wins. Corey's got 1. Ashton's got 3 wins. You've got a win as well. Or are we going to win the second one here in a couple of weeks?
I'm hoping so.
Well, who gets the thanks on this one car tonight?
All the sponsors on this car. Just they all help us get to the racetrack, and help us do what we love to do here. My crew and my family, that's all here that supports us. Mom and dad, my girlfriend Camden, Brian, George, just everybody that helps us out and supports us.
And that's Ryan Messer, a third place run here tonight. Round number 5 of the Super Late Model Series goes to Corey Hall. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with Speed Weekend 2023 here at Speedway 660. You're going to want to be a part of it. Book your campsites, tell your friends, tell your family, tell any drivers you know, dig their race cars out, and come to the Geary Woods. On behalf of everybody here at Speedway 660, the Super Late Model Series, my name is Jesse Thompson. Please drive safe on your way home. If you're staying in the campground, please be safe out there and enjoy yourself. And we'll be back here on Labor Day weekend for Speed Weekend 2023.